We have a new jobs report. It's not good. And a desperate Donald Trump is now begging the Fed, cut rates, please cut rates. So here's what's going on. New data from payroll firm ADP shows that private sector hiring has slowed to a crawl in the month of May. Only 37,000 jobs added. This is the worst new jobs number in a single month in more than 2 years. It's less than half of April's already disappointing number. It is way below what economists expected, 110,000 jobs. 37,000 jobs added, private sector, as compared to 110,000. Trump's reaction, not a plan, not accountability, certainly. He is demanding that the Federal Reserve bail him out. He immediately posted to Truth Social, quote, ADP number out. Too late, Powell, referring to Fed Chair Jerome Powell, too late, Powell must now lower the rate. He is unbelievable. Europe has lowered 9 times.
Truth, essential.
Yeah, on truth. When Donald Trump said, let's talk about rates, okay? When Donald Trump says lower the rate, he's talking about the Federal Reserve's benchmark interest rate, sometimes known as the federal funds rate, the overnight rate, et cetera. This is the rate that the Fed uses to influence economic activity. When you lower the federal funds rate, it makes borrowing cheaper, which can get more people borrowing money, spending, hiring to try to grow their businesses. If the cost of borrowing is high, it dissuades people from doing it. If the cost of borrowing is low, think about yourself as an example. If you had to borrow money to do, I don't know, a home renovation, if the cost of borrowing the money is an 8% interest, you would be less likely to do it than if the cost of borrowing was a 2% interest, because it would be less financially viable as an investment if on top of the cost of the renovation, you're paying 8% interest instead of 2%. It's the same logic here, essentially. So that's what Trump is talking about when he says he's got to lower the rate. The Fed usually will cut rates in response to a serious economic downturn, not just like a single jobs report that's bad or a couple of jobs reports that are below expectations. Now, I'm going to admit to you, the Fed is in a tough spot. I don't think we're yet at the point where it's obvious that the Fed needs to lower rates. Inflation is still sort of a question mark in terms of where is it going to go. Interest rates have been kept relatively high to try to cool prices. If you lower rates too soon, you can start an inflation spiral going up. But Trump doesn't really care about that. Trump's worried about the optics of a weakening economy heading into the midterms and re-elections for Republicans, and just generally the way that it's going to impact his presidency. It is clear that a rate cut would sort of juice the economy artificially in the short term. It'll give Trump a political talking point. Oh, stocks are up and whatever, hiring's up. But the problem is that the slowdown is happening on Trump's watch, and Trump's own policies are part of the story. The tariffs raise the cost of doing business, and Trump goes, okay, I'm doing something to raise the cost of doing business. Now I want the Fed to bail me out by lowering rates, which lowers the cost of doing business. And the Fed is, at least for now, seemingly unwilling to do that. Even large companies have been reducing hiring. Wages are sort of stalling. You've got mid-sized companies really carrying the weight of job creation. Now, Trump's rate cut is also interesting for another reason. He is acknowledging that the economy is softening and he wants a quick fix. You don't demand a rate cut if you're convinced that the economy is doing awesome. And so while that's what Trump is saying, he at the same time is acknowledging it's not so hot because you don't demand rate cuts desperately the way he's doing it if everything is actually working that well. Now, the Fed chair is independent, supposedly. Jerome Powell does not work for the White House. He is theoretically, I have to use all these qualifiers because of the world we're in. He's theoretically insulated from political pressure, and the Fed is going to make the decisions that it's going to make. One last thing. In his troth, Trump says, Europe has lowered rates 9 times, so we should as well. The truth is, Europe's dealing with a very different inflation environment and is dealing with weaker economic growth until Q1 GDP went down. So that's why Q2 GDP will be so interesting. The comparison to Europe doesn't really make sense. but Trump still uses it to try to pressure the Fed to do what he wants. So the bottom line here is we've got warning signs from this economy. Trump's first instinct is yell at somebody else to try to fix it, not to change course on the tariffs, not to deal with the root causes, just like tell the Fed what to do. It's not really economic strategy. It's damage control dressed up as monetary policy. And voters seem to be seeing through it. Why do I say that? You look at consumer confidence. It's been falling steadily since January, and it hit its lowest point in nearly a year. So people are feeling what Trump seems to be acknowledging by demanding the rate cut. It's a feedback loop. Trump's tariff fiasco helped to create it, and now he's begging for help from somebody else. Now, how is Caroline Leavitt going to deal with the growing list of concerns about the economy? Let's talk about that. There is a coordinated campaign right now to force religious beliefs into law, and it's moving fast. In Texas, lawmakers are trying to mandate the 10 Commandments in every public school classroom. In our Republican Congress, religious conservatives passed a bill to strip Medicaid coverage for gender-affirming care using religion as the justification. And across the country right now, we see these Christian nationalists really emboldened by the MAGA movement, and they're reshaping America, and it's terrifying. This is why I support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They've been fighting back since 1978, defending the separation of church and state in courts, in schools, and wherever religion tries to take control. If you believe, as I do, that government should represent everyone, not just the religious right, take action now. Go to ffrf.us/freedom or just text the word David to 511-511. The info is in the description. Text fees may apply.